with last 10 nights, and we know how special and important these last 10 nights are, whether it's praying late in the evening or it's making sure that everything you do within these last 10 days means something more than ever before. But for sure, these 10 nights are very significant in Ramadan, and we hope that you and your family take it to heart, and we hope that the lectures are also inspiring you to continue to move forward within your spiritual journey in Ramadan. Before we get to our next lecture, it is now time for a word from Penny Appeal Canada.
Your zakat could change her life. It could make her smile for the first time in months. It could help her see a future full of opportunities and love. Donate your zakat to our children's appeals, and 100% of your donation will help orphans and vulnerable children. Your zakat donation has incredible power, 100% of the time.
So, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah ma'ad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear and sisters out there. This is Brother Alaa hosting this beautiful occasion of having these really good looking young guys. And I feel, I'm telling you, I'm the uncle now. You know the guys that Chachi, Chuchi, whatever you want to call that guy? That's me. Now I have the honor to have the Thobe team with the Sud team. I'm just saying. Okay, so dude. So these guys are the sheikhs, we are the milk sheikhs. That's basically what we're doing here. So we're hosting this on behalf of Penny Appeal. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on such a beautiful occasion. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, your family, health and wealth, and accept from all your deeds, inshallah, and make this Ramadan the best, blessed Ramadan, and make us among the utaqa. May Allah expedite our next from the hellfire, Ya Rabb, Ameen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pardon us. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. And the reason we're here today is actually we can just talk about a few things. First of all, how to support Penny Appeal, because they are definitely one that are working for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've known the brothers for a while. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, they do amazing work around the world. And of course, this is exactly what we're here for. And also to tell you that the month of Ramadan is multiplied when you give and donate, inshallah. So this is exactly what we are going to discuss with the mashayikh, the good looking guys everywhere, mashallah. I needed some sunglasses, right? And we're also going to ask you to watch, Breakin dates. And of course, we're going to discuss how to best live the last 10 days or 10 nights of Ramadan, and specifically the night of power, Laylatul Qadr. May Allah accept from all of us now. I'm going to introduce the mashayikh. From my right, let's get ready to rumble. In the right corner, Sheikh Musleh Khan. Ooh, oh, I'm telling you, just know. Sheikh Musleh Khan and I go a long way. You've known him for a long time. So we go a long way. It's nice to have you, Sheikh. Thank you so much for being here. Nice to be here. The other good-looking guy, Sheikh Daood, but may Allah bless him, inshallah. I've known him for a long time too. This is one of my favorite, alhamdulillah. We see each other more outside of Canada than actually Canada. So Sheikh Daood but usually gives me massages, but since this distancing thingy, I don't like this stuff because I'm a huggy, lovey-dovey kind of guy, but I mean, we do the right thing, right, Sheikh? So I'd like to welcome you, Sheikh Daood. Thank you for spending the time with us. And last but not least, of course, Sheikh Ibrahim Hindy. I remember Sheikh Ibrahim Hindy a long time ago. I mean, it's the youngest of us here. May Allah bless him. This is exactly we're giving the torch to him, alhamdulillah, to carry the banner after us, inshallah. I've known him for a long time, but known his father for a long time, mashallah, from da'wah from a young age. Alhamdulillah, he was actually had the honor to sit next to him to teach a few classes right here. And I told him, you know what, you're it, run with it. Alhamdulillah, he's now, mashallah, full-fledged Imam and Sheikh, and doing a great job. So I'd like to welcome you also, Sheikh Ibrahim Hindy. May Allah bless you all, inshallah. So I guess first thing I want to ask you, brothers, if you don't mind, from the right-hand side, just a little bit about yourself and what makes you happy and what makes you sad.
Oh man, what makes me happy and what makes me sad? Okay, so a little bit about myself. I love to eat ketchup with everything. It kind of throws people off at first, but I explain it and I try to get people to understand. It's not a sickness. It's actually just I love the flavor. So yeah, ketchup is my thing.
So if you made a steak, you're putting ketchup on the steak.
I gave him a box of ketchup for his wedding gift.
That was one of my wedding gifts from Sheikh Daood. Was he gave me a box, I think it was like a dozen bottles of Heinz ketchup. It was the biggest box sitting there, and it was the heaviest. And I just yeah, that's Sheikh Daood for sure.
You need to meet my 3-year-old daughter. She is terrified of ketchup. Like, if ketchup is on the dinner table all the way at the other end, and she's on the other end, she's almost crying. She's like, it's too close to me.
Let me tell you
her
how
feeling of
bizarre this
ketchup.
gets. Ketchup and soup. I can't believe I'm going to admit this. Ketchup and like the curries and the dal and so on. And people like will literally separate from me, Sheikh, when they see that. They're just like, we can't eat with him. So yeah, I mean, I love to snack, I love to eat, but in my spare time, really, I spend a lot of time just running, exercising, playing basketball, that sort of thing. Yeah, not engrossed in books that much when I'm in my spare time. That's really what, it's really pretty much in a nutshell what I'm all about, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. Sheikh Daood, what about you? Just what would you tell people about who is Sheikh Daood?
Sheikh, it goes this way, so you're next.
Yeah, I see him just passing the puck. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Introduce you.
You're way too kind.
bit about yourself as well.
Actually, no, before he does, we should all introduce him. Right? So like Sheikh Alaa, mashallah, he's the Imam of ISNA Canada, alhamdulillah. Everyone knows Sheikh Alaa. And everyone sees Sheikh Alaa very often on the camera, but there's a few things that you probably don't know about Sheikh Alaa that you don't see on the camera that we could probably expose him. Sheikh Alaa always seems like he's got lots of energy, which he does, but in his downtime, mashallah, he could sleep like a bear, right?
Surprise! I didn't know sleep. Okay, I'll take that anytime.
So here, I'll give you an example. We were in Heathrow Airport, Terminal 4, in the Air Canada lounge, sitting upstairs, eating, and then you said, I'm going to take a nap. Wake me up. And I couldn't wake you up. And I'm like, we're going to miss this flight. And I'm shaking Sheikh Alaa, and he's not waking up. And then he's like, oh, we got time. I'm like, no, we don't. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, this is your akhukum fillah, your brother in faith, in Islam, at your service, Brother Alaa. I am married for 25 years, just a few days back, and you know, sometimes you try to forget, but your wife will not make you forget, and you make sure to understand that. I'm just training you guys. Make sure to 3 kids, alhamdulillah, and alhamdulillah, it's been a beautiful ride. Been in Canada for about 42 years now, and lucky just to be in the da'wah, and this road, it's a long way to come. Just be here, wallahi, is a blessing by itself. So thank you. Now it's your turn. Sheikh Daood, take it away. What makes me happy? Wallahi, I'll tell you what makes me happy. Being in a company like this, wallahi, it makes me happy. Doing for the working for the sake of Allah, being honored and working for da'wah, being in the last 10 days of Ramadan, you know, Allah using us for His sake, being open the keys for the gates of goodness and close the gates of evil. That's priceless to me, Sheikh, and that's absolutely what makes me happy. You know, kunafa also makes me. Biryani, don't get me started. I'm Hunahari, dude. Khalas, move on. Oh, biryani and ketchup. And if you're Somali, bananas. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, Sheikh.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, what makes me happy? I love cars. I love cars. I grew up around cars. I have a degree as an automotive technician. But I don't have enough time to work on my own car these days. That's why I have a brand new one. Well, it's not brand new, yani, you know, couple years. No, but I'm working my way up, inshallah. As in up to Jannah and something better there, inshallah. We can't afford Ferraris. Inshallah. Reach for the stars. With some ketchup.
Yes, please.
But no, cars, I love cars. I love family, but I love travel as well. Right? You see how I just skipped family and went right into travel? Because when I travel so much, I miss the family and then I come back to them. So, alhamdulillah. That really makes me happy. And travel for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So getting to see the world, getting to see the blessings and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for me, that's like, you know, I could just sit there and admire the world all day long. Alhamdulillah.
So I know, Sheikh, you travel a lot, and it's off record, yani. Off record. How many wives? Really? How many wives? Come on, be honest now. Gloves are off. Just between us. Nobody's listening, Sheikh.
I'll prepare your janazah.
Shaheed, mashallah. Last nights, what else you look for? Janazah tomorrow, alhamdulillah. Yani. Really, how many wives do you have? Everybody wants to know.
I'm a law-abiding citizen.
Ya salam.
And we live in Canada, so we are only allowed to have one, and alhamdulillah, I have one.
Are you running for office, Sheikh?
I might be, because my wife might watch us and like ditch me afterwards, so I'll need another job.
Allah khair, Sheikh. May Allah bless you. Sheikh Ibrahim. Who is Sheikh Ibrahim Hindy, and what makes you happy, Sheikh?
It's a good question. I have a lot of hobbies. I love playing hockey. Hockey is a big thing for me, and sports in general. I love to cook. He likes to eat, but I like to cook. So, but if I did make a steak, like my steak, and he put ketchup on it, I would actually be very, very offended. I would be very upset. Yeah, I have been bothering Sheikh Daood throughout this whole lockdown. Every day I'm sending him things I'm cooking or baking or things like that. And I've been critiquing your cooking videos, Sheikh. I'm like, oh, he did that wrong, he needs to do this. You know, if you make a kahk video, I'm gonna have a reputation of your
Sheikh, I'm willing to change my manhaj for you, okay? I'll stay away from the ketchup for your steak, no problem.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And that's my problem. You've lost weight, mashallah, Sheikh. I've been gaining the weight though. Like that you've been losing during lockdown, I've been gaining it back.
And look, how did I lose weight? Every Friday they have biryani here, Sheikh. And my wife did not know this, but I used to cheat on her. I mean, يعني in halal way. We'll take this out of context. Let me rephrase that. يعني. On her cooking. I used to cheat on her cooking. Come on. Excuse me one second. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Nice talking to you. It's nice to know you, brothers. I'm telling you right now. What I mean is her cooking. She used to give me food on Friday, and I had to compete with the biryani. And you know what happened? You know, sharing is caring, right, Sheikh? So I shared my wife's cooking with everybody because I couldn't go back with the food. Did you eat? I was And since it's been no Fridays and no biryani, Sheikh, I think that's what did it. And well, thank you. But you said you played hockey, and I think that's how Canadian of you. And it's very nice, mashallah, to see Sheikh Daood. One day, inshallah, Sheikh Ibrahim, I'd like to try that steak, but no ketchup, inshallah. So, Sheikh, we're in the blessed last 10 days and nights of Ramadan, alhamdulillah. What does it mean to you, and how do you tell our viewers best to benefit, and you personally, benefit, and what do you suggest for them to do, specifically in Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, inshallah?
So I'll tell you my routine every year for the last 10 nights, for as long as I can remember. I spend a lot of time alone. Even within the house, I spend a lot of time just kind of doing my own thing, and my own thing is really only just reviewing Quran. I try to, and I won't say how many, but I try to do as much khatam as I can in the last 10 nights. And I do it with one purpose, to just the muraja', Sheikh, you know, just to review him. And I find that when I've been doing that, the last 10 nights, everything that I ever wish for and wanted to be, so Laylatul Qadr, to be able to maximize that night, and to do all the things that we're supposed to do that night, from the adhkar, the prayers, all of that. I find all of that stuff everything just starts to synchronize and happen very easily. I sleep a lot less, but that's not even intentionally. Like, it just ends up happening. I don't desire the sleep. So it's really spending a lot of time alone, spending time with the Quran, and then just going with the flow. And particularly on the 27th night, I mean, we can't do it this year, but try to be at the masjid, and I try to go around and visit different masjids. Just like how you were saying earlier, right? Just to be around people. You know, the masajids are so packed that I just want to see people and be around them, and that's how I spend those last 10 nights. It's as simple as that.
So, Sheikh Daood, you know, the masajid is now closed. And it's sad, to be honest with you. It's very disheartening to walk in the corridors and not to see people. And even when you see even the iftar, the drive-through, it's just so nice to see people, period. And in this, Sheikh, if you don't mind, maybe how was the 10 nights of Ramadan for you? And what, again, to our viewers, going through what we're going through now, what's it been for you, and how to benefit from that? And what was also your recommendation for our viewers about the Laylatul Qadr specifically?
Yeah, so Ramadan this year has been very different. So when people ask, how do you usually spend the last 10 nights or the odd nights or even the 27th night of Ramadan, this year's it's like an anomaly, totally different, right? The previous years it was, the odd nights is pure fundraising or reminders, and you're at the masjid, you're busy. And to be honest, and I'll say this very bluntly, I didn't really enjoy it so much for myself. I'm happy doing it, and I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses every single one of us with certain things. And to be given that position where you can speak to the people, you can educate them, you can teach them something, you can fundraise for them as well. You might not have the funds to give, but you can help by getting other people to donate. Alhamdulillah, for me, that's where I see Allah has put me in this position to benefit during those odd nights of Ramadan. This year, though, has been totally different. Like, I actually have time for myself. And I'll, again, be honest, I kind of want every Ramadan to be like this. For me, in terms of having my own time, I would love to see the masajid open and full. That's not what I'm saying. But personally, I would not want to be so in demand during Ramadan. I would like to have my own time. Simple example, on the 23rd night this year, subhanallah, I went to the masjid, I did a live streaming from the masjid, we prayed, myself and Sheikh Hudayfa, and then went home and put the kids to sleep. And then I read 3 juz of the Quran at like a very, very slow pace. And then I still had time, and I was like, okay, let me make dua. And I was like, there's so much time. And I was wondering to myself, like, the average person, who's not like us, who are scrambling with people asking us questions and constant, messages and phone calls, or you're busy in the masjid, people have so much time to use in these odd nights. And I honestly could see anyone who can recite the Quran fluently should have no issue finishing the Quran once in the last 10 nights. It should be so easy to do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah in it. So for me, honestly, this year, it's just been nice to be with the family. Just first time having iftar at home in Ramadan in 7 years. Right? In 7 years, first time, my wife's like, oh my God, we're doing this. I have to cook something. So every day she's like, I got to cook something. I'm like, yeah, because I got a live stream while you're cooking. So that exempts me from it, but it's been really nice, alhamdulillah.
What's your recommendation, Shaykh, and to our viewers, how do they spend the night of power, Laylatul Qadr?
So my recommendation is not everyone is at the same level. Not everyone can recite a juz, for example. But give what you can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your situation, but don't just give in your comfort zone. Push yourself a little bit further out of it. And so, for example, if you're able to recite 5 pages, try to recite 10. Right? Push yourself a little bit further and trust that the sleep you're missing out on, Allah will put barakah, like Sheikh Musleh mentioned. Allah will put barakah in that sleep. And so you might only get 3 hours of sleep that night, or 2 hours of sleep, and then another 2 after Fajr. But Allah puts barakah in it, you feel like you slept 8 hours.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. May Allah bless you. Sheikh Ibrahim, speaking of time, when Sheikh Daood was talking about, what does this time around been like for you in the month of Ramadan, especially in the last 10 nights? And again, if I can ask you to give your recommendations for our viewers, how to spend the Laylatul Qadr, inshallah.
Like Sheikh Daood said, I mean, it's been really different because usually you're in the masjid and fundraising is a big thing, and I'm trying to beg you, please come to my masjid and fundraise for me, please. It's too difficult for me. And you're just thinking about that, and then you're thinking about dealing with people and their problems and the questions that they have, and then we have thought in the masjid, then trying to help coordinate that, and so you're just kind of focused on people so much and what people need and to make sure that things are running smooth for people as they come into the masjid. And now with the masjid closed, there's a type of rahmah in that I can think about myself a little bit. And there's no replacement to ibadah. Like even teaching is not a replacement to ibadah, and taking care of people's problems, that's not a replacement for you sitting by yourself and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by yourself. So I felt that was lacking. Like I was even speaking to some other brothers last year, and we're saying, how amazing would it be if during Ramadan I didn't go to my masjid and I went to a different masjid, nobody knows me, and I can just worship without anybody knowing who I am, because that would be amazing. Now this time I get to go to the masjid by myself or be at home with my family by ourselves, and we can spend that time in ibadah. And so I feel like there's definitely a silver lining, and there's a lot that we can take from it that I'm trying to do with my family, and just praying Taraweeh together and reciting Quran together. And so there's definitely drawbacks with this whole situation. We can't even touch each other, we're all so far away, but there's benefits as well, alhamdulillah. And some of that benefit is just having that time to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to call upon Him secretly and in private. And for these last 10 nights, my advice to people, I would say, number one, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you find and get the benefit of Laylatul Qadr. Like that's one of the most important things throughout from the beginning of Ramadan and even to next Ramadan. We should be asking Allah, let us find Laylatul Qadr and take the benefits of it. The other advice I would say is recite Khawatim Surah Al-Baqarah, the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever recites those two verses at night, it's sufficient for him. And some of the scholars interpreted this to mean that it's sufficient if you don't pray tahajjud, those two verses are as if you did normally. So in addition to praying tahajjud, we should recite those two verses so that we've covered all the bases, and inshallah we get the reward of praying tahajjud during the last 10 nights of Ramadan. To make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course we know the famous dua, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. The Prophet ﷺ told Aisha, do this a lot. Not just anytime, do it a lot. That doesn't mean it's the only dua you make. You can make other ad'iyah, but this should be definitely part of a lot of the ad'iyah that we make during this night. And then, to give charity definitely is something that's good. And, there's so many doors of forgiveness. There's as many chances of forgiveness as we have, breaths that we take with, to live in this life. So, use every opportunity, try every single thing, knock on every single door, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah is going to open for us.
Speaking of doors, subhanAllah, great, mashallah, jazakumullah khair. I'm learning from you, Allah. But I'll be honest with you, for this pursuit of Allah, this Ramadan, I thought I'll be chilling, laying back, and I'll be bored, and I'll have all the time in the world. This has been the busiest Ramadan in my life, and I mean that, wallahi. Every Ramadan we say the same thing, I know, but this is next level busy. I don't know what happened, Sheikh. Like, what? We're in the last 10 nights? What happened? I swear. And you know what, Sheikh? Things are online now. You don't have to travel. You don't have to go anywhere. So you're actually the potential of time, you can utilize it and maximize to get a lot more. So a lot of organizations ask you to help. There's webinars, there's lectures, there's fundraisers, even marriages online now. I'm saying this is the 2009, whatever that is, it's gonna be like everything is on. What's going on, man? Yeah, I know, Sheikh. So wallahi, it's been an interesting Ramadan for me, and I hate to say this, but I'm actually enjoying it, and I'll tell you what you've said, Sheikh. This is the first time in my life to have iftar with my family. I don't have to go, I gotta run, right? And you fly and here. So this has been an interesting change. I have something to share with you though. Regarding, Laylatul Qadr, I heard something from Dr. Ahmed al-Masrawi, Hafidhahullah. I want to share with you guys. He says, don't look for Laylatul Qadr so you can just pray. But look for Laylatul Qadr to be good to your mother, to be good to your father, to be good to your brother, to be good to your sister, to be good to your daughter, to be good to your son, to be good to your neighbor, to reach for next of kin, to open the doors that you were talking about, Sheikh. Knock on the doors of the Quran, knock on the doors of Qiyam, knock on the doors of Da'wah, clean up your closet sins. Right? He said that it's not just what we think. We close the gates of evil, open the gates of goodness. And I'm paraphrasing on some of this, but he actually opened up my eyes, because most of us, when we think of Laylatul Qadr, it's just a qiyam and your dua, your tahajjud, your ibtihal, and you give your zakah on that day, or you give your sadaqah on that day. And speaking of sadaqah, inshallah we'll be talking about that next. So by preparing, I'm just saying, gloves are off, man. I'm telling you, I'll see you outside. But it's been an amazing round for this Musleh of Allah, wallahi, and it's been definitely one of the most memorable. And again, the gates are there to make sure that we understand Laylatul Qadr. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the way, He says, خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. Even this Musleh of Allah, wallahi, used to make the mistake. He says, equal to the 83 years, so months, whatever, and 1,000 months. Actually, no, one of the scholars actually says, no, Allah did not say they're equal. This is khayr. It's better than 83 years. So you can imagine, by doing whatever it is that you're doing for that night, whatever the best dua. Akun Sahih Bukhari, Aisha radiallahu anha, ahsan Shaykh, for Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. And we know why. Because afu, you understand, is like pardoned. Not just Allah will forgive you, it's erased from the record. Afu ghafara is like cover, right? He covers the sins. So, and this is exactly what we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just to forgive our sins, expiate it, and is absolved, and is gone from our all of that, inshallah, the records, even the angels will be erased from the records. And that's what's so beautiful about this. And Qadr, because the Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the best night, for the best month, for the best of the nations, for the best of prophets and messengers, for the best of everything. Ajal al-Qadr, it's so high ranking. And you can imagine, my brothers and sisters, for that one night, Allahu Akbar, everything is decreed in that day and that night. So it is not just what we think, it's a lot more than that. And also to understand that Laylat al-Qadr in itself, subhanallah, when it's better than 1,000 months or whatever it is, we have to also think about it in a different manner. So whether you're going to give your sadaqah in that night, or whether you're going to give your zakah in that night, whatever it is, but maybe we can take that as a segue, Shaykh. Maybe we'll start with you. Why should we be given sadaqah? What is the features and benefits of it, and what is it exactly that it means to you, inshallah?
Well, I mean, to give sadaqah is probably one of the greatest acts of righteousness we could do, right? And to reserve that for these last 10 nights, and perhaps, imagine you give that sadaqah in one of the odd nights. Like, it just doesn't get any better than that. And I think that's a good incentive for anybody to, even if you can, intentionally reserve some of that sadaqah so that you can be able to distribute that in these last 10 nights. Like, it's about, like as you mentioned, reaping as much of the reward as possible in every area you can, whether it be worship, rituals, dua, and now something a bit more practical. So I think that's, somebody was telling me that charity is almost like our purpose, because how charity is not just restricted to giving money and paying for things and things like that, like smiling, being kind to people. It's almost as if charity is the one word that summarizes the existence of human beings. And when I think about this statement, it's really hard to not see the truth in it. And so when you look at all of that, to try to give and be extra generous, in particular in the last 10 nights, I think it's a duty for us as Muslims. So we should really, really push ourselves, as Sheikh Daood was mentioning as well, to really push ourselves, go the extra mile, inshallah, and give as much as you can, inshallah ta'ala.
Allah yazzik al-khair. So Sheikh Daood, sadaqah in itself is mentioned a lot in the Quran and Sunnah in different format. Maybe you can shed a light. What does a sadaqah mean to you personally, and why should Muslims at large actually practice at one of the pillars actually of when it comes to zakah and sadaqah, especially in the last 10 nights, especially in the Laylatul Qadr and so on?
Yeah, so I mean, sadaqah, we see it in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as being lots of different things, not just money. A lot of the time when, especially people might be watching right now, they're like, oh my God, they're going to ask us for money again, right? But I mean, the money is needed, no doubt, but there are other types of sadaqat that we can do that we learn from the Sunnah. For example, at-tabassum sadaqah, smiling is a sadaqah. Going and helping someone who's elderly or someone who's not able to do something on their own is a sadaqah. Simply being yourself and just being a person that gives this aura around you where people are going to respect you, like your family, your children are going to like you. They'll be like, oh man, we got to sit with him. You're doing a sadaqah, it's a charity for them, right? The Prophet ﷺ says the best kind of sadaqah that you can do is a sadaqah for your family, right? Towards your family. What does that mean? Does that mean take your credit card out and give it to all your children? No, it's like do righteousness towards your family. Be respectful at home. Don't come home and be a bear and just go in your own corner and sleep, or be a bull and come and just fight and argue with everyone. Be someone that your family can actually live with. But in terms of sadaqah, a monetary sadaqah and charity, the importance of it, you've traveled a lot, we've all traveled a lot, we've seen people on the side of the streets everywhere we go that are asking and begging. We've witnessed, and I know you've witnessed it as well, children whose stomachs go in from their rib cages. We've seen it. We've gone to places, even when you go for Hajj sometimes, you see people that are so poor and they've made it for Hajj probably because someone else paid for them, but that doesn't mean that they can afford it themselves. And they're walking with a cane or a stick and they're trying to make their way. It's so important for us to look after each other. It is our Jannah, right? We're helping each other. I love what Sheikh Musleh said. It sums up almost everything that we're supposed to do, right? Believe in Allah and do good deeds. Believe in Allah and do righteous deeds. You see it in the Quran time and time again being mentioned. And so, a lot of the time people feel, oh, but giving charity is only for the rich, people who can afford it. I'll tell you, we've all gone through low times when we were students maybe and didn't have anything, but we still gave. The $2 that you give can make a huge difference, right? Especially in some countries around the world. We went to the slums in one country once, right? I won't say where. And we went to this convenience store and we bought out the whole convenience store. And the owner of it was like, it's like a small shack, right, in the slums. And we were like, we want everything. And the owner was like, wait. She ran and got her husband. And her husband was like, you want everything? We're like, yes, everything. They literally started putting everything in bags and calculating. It came to like 130 Canadian dollars. We bought their entire store's inventory. And then we carried it all into the slums and just handed it out to all the families. $130 to buy a whole store worth of food and snacks and stuff. So, never belittle the little amount, and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies it, right? It's not that we give $1, we're getting 700 back from Allah. You give $1, Allah could stretch that dollar as much as He wants.
Allahu Akbar. That's beautiful, mashallah, mashaykh. It's amazing what you're sharing with us. We really appreciate it. Sheikh Ibrahim, I know that you ask others to do fundraisers for you and you do charity on your behalf, but today you're it, man. That's it. You can't pass the puck. So I just want to pick your brain. I know that, mashallah, you're learning, and I'm so proud of you how you've come a long way, and alhamdulillah, now you become one of the leaders in the community, and people look up to you and listen to you, and now you become a role model for the young and the youth. And alhamdulillah, I'm so proud of that. So I want you to speak to the young in the audience. Not that the other mashayikh are old. I'm just saying. I'm talking about myself now, Sheikh. I'm just talking here. A language, Sheikh, that the young will listen to, the youth, in their own kind of language. What does really sadaqah mean in the Quran and Sunnah, in the language that they can understand and something they can relate to?
I think the important thing when we think about sadaqah in general is that the word sadaqah comes from the word sidq, right? So it's the truthfulness, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هَذَا يَوْمْ يَنْفَعُ الصَّادِقِينَ صِدْقُهُمْ. Like the day of judgment, that's the day where those who are truthful, those who are real, their truthfulness will benefit them on that day. Mm-hmm. So, for the young people, I would say, a lot of people say things, a lot of people talk, and they say lots of things about themselves. Who's actually real and who's not? A lot of people say they're your friends. Who's really your friend and who isn't? A lot of people say that they are the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who really is and who isn't. Mm-hmm. And those who are true to what they say about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the ones who are willing to sacrifice towards that. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, right? You're never going to achieve piety until you're able to sacrifice the thing that you love. So if you actually love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you actually want that piety, that closeness to Allah, and you're actually real about it, you're actually true about it, then you're going to sacrifice something for that sake. It's not just going to be words, there's going to be some deeds coming with it. And the reality is, in this world, everybody cares the most about money, right? And everybody wants to go on Instagram and take pictures of themselves with money, and they lean on a really expensive car that's not even theirs, and they take a picture and they put it on Instagram, or they borrow some money from someone else and they hold the picture of holding all this cash and they take a picture of it. And everybody has their heart attached to money, right? But if you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if your heart is really attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're going to give that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're going to say, this is an evidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a priority over everything else in this dunya, especially the thing that everybody loves the most, which is money.
Ahsant, mashallah, Sheikh. When you were speaking about these cars, was that like a personal experience, Sheikh, or is that was that you?
I know, subhanAllah, some shabab here who do exactly that.
Man. I stick to my
Taking a selfie, I mean selfie.
I'll hold on to my Monopoly money. Just like, yeah.
That's where these pictures come from. Now I know it is. I want to share a story with you, Mashaykh. Wallahi, when I heard the story, it got to me, because subhanallah, when we talk about this a lot, we teach it, but when you hear true stories to come, it's like أَوَلَمْ تُؤْمِنْ, have you not لَكَيْ يَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبِي. Subhanallah, when you see the proof of things like this is, to me, that's the icing on the cake. That's like really what nails it. So this story is, there were a person that was ill, and one of the channels took the ownership that they were going to help pay for the cure for this terminal illness, And the expenses were very high, so they had to have like a fundraiser for him. One of the people that actually donated the money gave $2. So the host was looking for like lots of money coming, and all of a sudden there's $2 that comes in. So he makes a comment about it. He says so and so donated $2, and then he started to ask. Then he actually got in touch with the person. He says, do you mind me asking you why did you just donate $2? He says that's what Islam teaches us. I only have $4 in my possession. And some of the righteous used to give all the money at least. Wallahi, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you the story. He says because this is 50% of what I owe. I only have $4 in my account. I'm going to give $2. And so it hit home. And the people, the viewers, actually, after they heard this, the money started to flood in. But the condition was, I'm going to give $1,000, $500 to the person that is sick, that needs help with his medical bills, and $500 for that young man that only had $4 to his possession, and he's given $2, 50% of what he owes. So the host was overwhelmed by how much the money was coming in, and it was more, and it was split. So he decided to host on that young man. He says, listen, I have this much money for you now. I want to be up and up, and I want to present the check for you on behalf of everybody that did donate for you. So he was also hosted in on the same program. And he asked him, tell me your story. He says, well, you know, I'm a learned person, but I could not get a job because I wanted to attend Jum'ah. I wanted to, and it was difficult for me to get jobs, even though I have my credentials and qualifications. So at the same time of the interview, he was receiving all these job offers from all different companies and organizations, and all he had to do is simply pick one of the best jobs he wanted. And all of that, my brothers and sisters, if you're listening, I want you to listen with your heart, wallahi. Not at this point with your mind only. Listen with your heart, mind and soul. And it started with $2. So like you said, Sheikh, لا تحقرن من المعروف شيئا. Do not belittle any of the righteous deeds. رب دينار خير من ألف دينار. Maybe $1 is better than 1,000 because that's what you have. Yeah, that's 50%. And that to me, wallahi, was a beautiful story that I wanted to share with you. And so many more. Like I know a brother, wallahi, and I mention this most of the time wherever I go. I know the brother personally. He's one of my best friends actually. The brother, he gave $500,000 as a qard hasan for the community to pay off the loan for the masjid. And he gave $100,000 from his own. Not just a qard hasan, as a sadaqah. And he came to me and says, Wallahi Shaykh, I don't have the money, but I have yaqeen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be able to help me. And he said, the same night, the following day he calls me up and says, Shaykh, you won't believe this. The same night, I went home, I found a voicemail from my real estate agent telling me that the land that you've been trying to sell for a long time, it just sold for much more than you asked for. Now again, I'm just saying a disclaimer here. If you give, I don't want you to wait for a voicemail or a text or an email, because you know what, I know where you live, you can run but you can't hide, I'm coming to get you, I know where you we don't test Allah, Allah tests us. But I'm just saying, wallahi, I've seen a sister show me the email. Says, Shaykh, I didn't have the money, but I get the courage to beat 70 shaitans, like the hadith says. You have to beat 70 shaitans in order for you to be able to give money. SubhanAllah, because ash-shaytan ya'udukum al-faqr. See, shaitan will promise you poverty. He will remind you of the things that you need to do. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ar-Rahman, He promises you maghfirah, Ridwan, Jannah, and so on. So she said, I almost, shaitan beat me on this one, but I decided to give. And she showed me the email. She said, Shaykh, look at this. I just received an email from my boss telling me that this year only we've decided to give you a bonus check. Wallahi. In another city, Shaykh, a brother came to me, same scenario. But he said, Shaykh, you won't believe this. I've been looking for a job for such a long time. Here you go. I just wanted to show you, to prove to you. Look at the date, look at the time, so you can share with others. Never to be afraid to give sadaqah, because Prophet ﷺ took an oath that it will never decrease your wealth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, qard. Man the ladhi yuqridu Allah qardan hasana. Who's going to give me a goodly loan? You understand? So a qard is like you give back. A grant you give and you don't get back. Allah is telling you it's a loan. Do you need a guarantor? Other than that, a prophet takes an oath by it. So he shows me, he says, you know what, Sheikh? I've been looking for a job for such a long time. And I just received a job offer. And he showed me, he says, I just received a job offer and I want you to look at it to make sure that you understand. This is for real. So I have endless stories like that. So I'm going to ask you, my brothers, my dear beloved mashayikh, and I'm your student, wallah, I learned from you. You tell me now, finally, why should we support penny appeal? Why are we here for? Why are we actually trying to ask people to help the cause of penny appeal? And what is it exactly that they do that touches you, that you think that I want a piece of the pie? Because الدال على الخير كفاعله. Those who aid others in doing righteous deeds as if they've done the righteous deeds. So why are we here talking about asking people to support penny appeal?
Wow, I mean, that's a huge question, Sheikh. And I mean, aside from now all the blessings of sadaqah and charity, it's just the work that they do. And I think now that the world that we're living in, about just getting the basic necessities of life, those are the organizations that need support. And for a long time we've been building a comfortable world to live in. But the people who have to reside here just don't have basic necessities in life. And so organizations like Penny Appeal, like these are the people that we really have to concentrate on, as much as we concentrate on taking care of our own homes. People, at the end of the day, more and more people are becoming sick, more and more people are becoming poor, and getting the basic resources to live a normal life is just becoming more and more difficult. And that whole, the separation between the rich and the poor, that gap is getting wider and wider. So Penny Appeal is one of those places where you really have to prioritize and concentrate on. And I think that enough is a reason for people to okay, I've been spending a lot of time, sharing my wealth and my time here and there, but I definitely need to do this now with Penny Appeal, right? Getting people fresh water, food, basic supplies, just so they can live and breathe and feel normal in this world.
Well said, Sheikh. Thank you so much. Sheikh, do you want to add anything that you think that why we should support this noble cause?
Sheikh, when you think of your own family, there's this fear that I have that one day I'm going to leave this world and no one's going to take care of my children. And I always tell my wife when forgive me for getting a bit emotional on this, I always tell her, don't worry, there's a lot of people in the community who know me, and I know that they love me, and they will never let you guys suffer. They'll never let you guys go hungry. They'll never, see you living on the streets. They'll never, see the children not have food. And it's people like you, who I know, if anything happened to me, and I know if anything happened to your families, we would be there as well. We'd be the first ones. And so things like that, when you think of other people, and the things that Penny Appeal is doing, helping, children and families and, widows and people who just, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala threw a curveball at them and things just went south for them. It can happen to any one of us. And so the question is, when it does happen to us, are we going to cry out then and say no one's helping us? Or when we're living comfortably and we have, alhamdulillah, what Allah has given to us, at that point in time, are we going to remember the people who don't have? Because if we don't, Allah can take everything away from us. And so for me, when it comes to giving to Penny Appeal, and just the title itself, the name of the organization, Penny Appeal, you don't even need to give $1, you can give a penny if that's all you have. But just do your part, do your bit, because one day, someone will look after your family as well.
May Allah protect your family, health and well, Sheikh. And it is, you're absolutely right, a little change goes a long way, and that's the motto. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect your family, health and wealth, and all of you and all of our viewers out there, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, inshallah, Sheikh. Sheikhna, and I know I always go to the best looking guy and the youngest in the end, but really, Sheikh, what is this noble cause that means to you, and why should we support others? And this noble cause that we're here to talk about, what does it mean to you, and why should we support it?
Sheikh Daood got me emotional too now, subhanAllah. Got me into my feelings. I think subhanAllah, so we have so much privilege that when we think of people who are suffering around the world, we think, oh, that's over there, that's never going to be us, and it's never going to come to us. And I think even with COVID, when it started happening, people were like, yeah, that's other countries, third world countries are going to deal with that, we're going to be fine. But it came to us. And even though nobody expected this would ever happen, who expected an entire country like this would shut down, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could cause situations to churn over and us to be in their situation. And so like Sheikh Daood said, like this is the opportunity for us to show that we're there to help other people. And if ever something bad happens to us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send those who will be there for us. And I think, this organization is one that you can trust, and they have, really capable people behind the scenes who are working really hard to bring support to people around the world who are suffering. And so this is a place that I would trust my donations, and I think everybody else as well should be able to trust theirs.
Mashaykh, this is very timely and befitting for us to reflect and ponder the cause and the reason and the wisdom behind fasting. And it's not just for the test of the batn and farj, the two biggest fitnas for us to be able to control whims and desires when it comes to our, the whims and desires and the lusts and after. It's from the stomach and our chest, private parts. So if you can control that, it's amazing. But it's a decision that you have to make, and that's what you learn, right? To learn taqwa in the month of Ramadan because of that, the consciousness of God Almighty. What made you hold back when you close all the doors and you come in the house and nobody else sees you? And what held you back when you actually making wudu? Even a drop of water will not go into your mouth. And what hold you back when you're actually cooking food and when you're tasting it, something slips through? And speaking of that, that the reason we take things for granted, that it's a God-given right, and we live out here. We have the water that is running, we have the food, and we have 2 fridges, and whatever it is that we want by the blessing of Allah, Allah blessed us. But the things that we don't see and we don't feel, so we go through these difficulties not to be taken for granted, to be able to be grateful to Allah for the gift and the ni'am that Allah gives us, and to share with others. And that's exactly what we're here for. It's like a beautiful story that if I tell you that there is a girl in Africa that doesn't have any food and water, you know what, you'll just say, I feel bad about it. Maybe I'll make dua for her. But if you actually see this on your screen, and you see a young girl that has no food and water, barely covering her awrah, and bends over, grabs something from the ground, dusts it off, it's soft enough to eat, and how would you feel? You see, the trick is that when you hear about something, it's only your hearing sense that is actually taking effect. So one sense in your body is making a decision how you feel about this person. But if you actually see it, it's individual. So now, not just hearing about it, you can see it. So it's 2 senses in your body that actually makes you feel a little more involved, that how you feel about this person. But if you don't eat and drink yourself, now all your senses in your body is actually involved in the decision making, that now you know what it feels like to be hungry. Nobody will be able to tell you what it feels to be hungry. You know what it feels like to be hungry. You know what it feels like to be thirsty. You know what it feels like just to have something to eat in the end of the day if it's a long day, and how everything after this tastes like ice cream. How you know what, whatever is good, I'll take it. It's amazing. But could you imagine some other place of Allah that I know personally said, you know what, alhamdulillah, when we pushed them to ask, what's wrong, how can we help? They say, alhamdulillah, it doesn't go over 2 to 3 days that we don't have food. Could you imagine people actually go for 2 to 3 days would have no food? And you hear in Sahih Bukhari where Prophet Muhammad Allah forgave a woman because she quenched the thirst of a dog. Amazing. And this woman was a lady of the night. Could you imagine? And when Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, we have honored and elevated the human beings above all of the creation. And if you quench the thirst of a dog, Allah forgives your sins even though you're the lady of the night. And what it happens to our brothers and sisters, not just in humanity, and also in faith. So could you imagine the reward? It's time for us to put a smile on people's faces and wipe the tears of their eyes, and let's be part of the, inshallah, turning this negative around. And especially when we go through this, like the Shaykh said, wallahi, it's more befitting now. We now know the fear. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. You know, in the siyaq, even the fa, it's called ta'qib, right away, right? Haste. And lamb, if the lamb goes into fi'l mudara', talab al-amr, right? If the lamb goes into a present tense, it's a command and a request. And the istimrari and jama'i, I mean, it's continuity, and also all of us, not just everybody is on. فَلْيَعْبُدُوا, should they worship the Lord of this house. Why? And the criteria is الَّذِي أَطْعَمَهُم مِّن جُوعٍ وَأَمَنَهُم مِّن خَوْفٍ. Subhanallah. The one that He fed them from hunger and secured them from fear. So that's exactly what we're here, inshallah. So I want to finish off with the benefits now, inshallah. The benefits, you understand, in sales they will tell you features and benefits, right? You know, with him, it's called with him, what's in it for me? And that's what I'm going to ask in the last, inshallah, from you brothers, Mashaykh. So you know what, we tell them, you know, here's what we're doing, and here's the features of what we're doing. We're trying to feed the poor, like the Mashaykh says. We're trying not just to feed them, supply with the food, supply with even health kits, supply them with the educational tools, supply them with whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm mentioning, mashallah, so many programs that we even talked about and have done before. And now I want to talk about not just the features and the benefits, and specifically for, if you do this, here's what you get. And why should I do it? What's the benefits with him? What's in it for me? What is actually the benefits of sadaqah specifically when we're going through the difficulties right now? You know, what would it be why would I do it? Why should I listen to you? Why should I not just listen to somebody else and do something else as opposed to, why should I not hoard my money and actually share it? What's the benefits of sadaqah to you, Shaykh?
Man, where do you begin, Sheikh? You know, when I get asked this question, the first thing that pops into my mind is the verse فَأَصَّدَّقْ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, right? So, you know, at some point, one will ask Allah, return me back to this earth, right? I want to go back and give me a second chance. But it's always amazing for me that the only thing mentioned in this verse is sadaqah. You know, فَأَصَّدَّقْ, like not فَأُصَلِّي, فَأَحُجْ or something, right? Not to pray or go for hajj or something. The only thing that their plea was to give me a second chance and go back to the earth on the Day of Judgment was that I could perform and give sadaqah. And then the result, so this is the benefit here, is that وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, so that I could just be a good, righteous person. And I think that that is probably the best incentive and blessing for us to give, is that at the end of the day, not only are you helping others, and you're helping them with whatever struggle they're going through, but you're actually doing it for yourself. You become better. I mean, nobody ever feels miserable by helping somebody. It's just instilled within our fitrah that when we help and we do things for people, it makes us feel good about ourselves. So there's a practical way, there's a religious blessing, and just logically it just makes sense that that's the right thing to do. We are all living in this world together, where none of us have our own bubbles, our own streets, our own neighborhoods. We're all together and we have to cooperate. And I think just by the way that lifestyle has been created, that we all have to depend on each other, is enough of an indication that we need each other to survive. So those are the things that should encourage us in terms of just the blessings, that this is a priority in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the most blessed acts of worship and righteousness, and it just makes sense. It's the right thing to do as a human being.
Hassan, Sheikh. You know, there are two types of things, and I know that one of them is doing things right, and the other is doing the right thing, and I believe it firmly, Sheikh. Jazakallah khairan. Maybe Sheikh Daood maybe can add on to this list and see, you know, why should we actually, what are the benefits of sadaqah you can share with us?
To be honest, Sheikh, when you were mentioning it initially, that was the first thing that always pops into my mind, is like, it's the breaking point. It's the thing that we would want to come back and do, right? فَأَصَّدَّقَ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. But, you know, to add to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ شَأْنٌ يُغْنِيهِ. Like, it's going to be total chaos. And we're all going to be running, like, I'll run to you, you run to me, I'll run to you, you run to me, you're running to your parents. Imagine going to your mother and your father, who've given you everything you have throughout your whole life, even at our age, right? I'm sure even at your age, your mother's like, what do you need? You know, let me do this for you, right? And you try and serve them, but they still have it within them to serve us. But on that day, they'll reject us. So for me, subhanAllah, your children, your parents, your spouse rejects you. And the breaking point is, hey, I need an extra deed right now. I need something. It's like, well, now you have the chance to do it. You're alive, we're here, we're listening to this, we're watching, we're, even ourselves, you contribute a little bit, because if you don't do it now, then you're going to regret it later. So it's really like the breaking point. Benefits, I mean, Jannah. Like, subhanAllah, you give $1, you get a Lamborghini, anyone would do it, right? It's like, here you go. Why would you reject it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not giving us a watch, but, I usually give away watches. And then someone gives me another one, right? But, if you dangle one in front of someone and like, here, it's yours, be like, no, it's okay. No, here, it's yours. Seriously, I'm giving it to you. And they're like, no, I can't take it. Why can't you take it? Like, Allah's giving us so much. Are you rejecting it from Allah? I see it as like, there's blessing and khair and, reward and stuff from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are rejecting when we're not giving sadaqah. So it's like, if you're missing out on this, it's almost as though you are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we're supposed to give. That's just the way I see it.
Beautiful point, Sheikh. Maybe Sheikh Ibrahim, you can add on to this beautiful discussion. And what do you think among the benefits of sadaqah that you can share with us, inshallah?
So, we know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, "Sadaqah tudfi'u ghadab al-Rabb," that sadaqah extinguishes the anger of our Lord. Another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he says, when you give something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah raises it just like you raise the horse. Like the horse starts off and it's so weak and it can barely walk, but when they raise the horse and it becomes a strong steed and it's strong and it can carry and it has horsepower, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises your sadaqah like that. You come on the Day of Judgment, you gave something very little and it becomes tremendous. And you think of that, subhanAllah, like when people invest money in the stock exchange, it's because of their faith in the stock exchange. Right? Like they have faith that the economy is working, that if they invest, that these companies are going to do well. It's all based on your faith. You believe in it. Yeah. So if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're giving something, what kind of return on that investment is going to come? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala going to do? You believe in these economies, well, do you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what He'll deal with it? And then, subhanAllah, you think of, and it goes back to something you said earlier, there are so many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ telling Bilal to give sadaqah, and Bilal was poor. And some of the hadith, he says, give sadaqah even if it's half of a date. As if to say, if all you own is one date, break it in half, give some of it for the sake of Allah. Why? Because on the Day of Judgment, this is going to protect you. With the anger of your Lord, it's going to extinguish it. So there's so many benefits, alhamdulillah, that we can get just from giving something that you might not even notice. You're just giving it, and really for a lot of people, money is just like a number in their bank account. So if you just give it and the number goes down today, but tomorrow it becomes better, and on the Day of Judgment it protects you from the punishment of Allah and enters us into Jannah.
Allahu Akbar. Beautiful, mashallah. And you know what, going through this difficult times, and may Allah make it easy and alleviate the hardship upon the ummah and humanity at large. Now we understand the things that we used to take for granted. For example, health, right? When Prophet ﷺ says, "Ightanim khamsa qabla khams," take advantage of 5 before 5. Among them is, your wealth before you become poor, and your health before you become ill, and the time before you have none, and of course life before death, and all on so on. So this is amazing, taking advantage of time before time when we have none. And this specifically that last 10 days is like the stretch, as if you've been waiting all year for a train, and when the train comes in, you're just watching the train come into dock in the station. The train stops, you're still watching. The door opens, and you're still watching the train. The door is closing, you're still watching, and the train is leaving, and you're still watching. So I'm hoping that we're not just going to be those among that just watch it happen. But inshallah, we'll get on that train in the best way possible. And of course, the difficulties that we're going through. Everybody's afraid to lose their house, their job, their health, their family, and even their job, and everything else that we're afraid of. Even the money, they're afraid. And you know what? And that's one thing we should concentrate on. We know that everybody else says Muslims are well equipped to handle this because of our aqeedah, our belief that whatever plagued you was not going to miss you, and whatever missed you was not going to plague you, and so on. It's aqeedah, our firm belief of that, our creed. And of course we know that the hadith says, "Dawu mardakum bis-sadaqah." Among the benefits of the sadaqah, subhanallah, is cure you ill. If you have a person that is ill in your family, if you or yourself is ill in the family, you're afraid of that, is dawu mardakum bis-sadaqah. The cure for the illness is sadaqah. Jameel. And Shaykh, you said that's correct. It puts out the wrath and the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you said that, Shaykh, and that's exactly what this means. Because you know that you will not come back to this life. And that's why Umar ibn Khattab said, "Tabahat al-a'mal, faqalat al-sadaqa, ana afdalukum." Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he says actions and deeds were boasting who is best. He says Sadaqah said, I am the best. Because of that, Shaykh. Because when you come back, you will not say anything else, just like you said. قَالَ رَبِّ ارْجِعُونَ, take me back. Nay, you will not come back. But it is exactly what it says, فَأَصَّدَّقْ, right away. فَأَتَّعْقِيب, you see it right away. And that's amazing, brothers and sisters, because on that day that is 50,000 years, where the sun leaves its orbit, comes close to your head, where people be drenched in the sweat, like the Shaykh said, you know, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبِهِ وَكُلِّ امْرِئٍ. Everybody will run, nafsi, nafsi, myself. On that day where the sun leaves its orbit, comes close to your head, people are drenched in the sweat, how much would you pay to be shaded on Judgment Day? Allahu Akbar. You know what the hadith says? Your sadaqah will come and shade you on Judgment Day, which there is no shade except Allah's shade. Ya salam. Isn't that amazing? Actually, in the grave, one narration says that the angels will come and try to pour punishment upon the owner of that grave. The sadaqah will come and protect you in the grave. It says, مَا قِبَلِي مِن مَدْخَلٍ, ye cannot come through me. This person, he used to give sadaqah. Allahu Akbar. Amazing, yani. When you think about the sadaqah in itself, how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ loved the shoulder, and we know that because we're all hungry right now, and we're talking about shoulders and lamb. Yani, what are you doing, Shaykh? So Aisha radiallahu anha, when she slaughtered the lamb, she gave everything away and she kept the shoulder, like a righteous wife that she was. And all our wives, of course, yani, of course you understand, all the sisters are there, are the best, mashallah, yani. Yes. So now Prophet ﷺ is coming back to ask her, what is left, O Aisha? She said, Al-Katif, the shoulder is left. He says, no, Aisha, everything is left except the shoulder. See, ما أكل فأبلى ولبس فأفنى وأنفق فأبقى. What you eat will be gone, what you wear will perish, but what you spend will stay. And that's why he was asking him, which money do you like best? Your money or your inheritor's money? So they said, we like our money. He said, okay, if you spend it, it's your money. And if you leave it, it's your inheritor's money. So what we're doing right now, really, Mashayikh, is transferring the money from the bank of this life to the bank in the hereafter. And that's what we're asking our brothers and sisters, is like what you said, Bilal radiallahu anhu. أنفق يا بلال ولا تخشى من ذي العرش إقلالا. Bilal radiallahu anhu والله. So what did he do? He said, don't be afraid. Give. Allah is the most generous. Yeah? He's the source of generosity. So why are you afraid? Yeah? He says the best time to give sadaqah. So what did he do actually? He gave a rooster. He says, عجبا مؤذن يضحي بمؤذن. They used to have fun too, yani, alhamdulillah. Because some of the brothers out there think that their teeth are awrah. Can't smile, even though it's a sadaqah, right? Yeah. What madhab is that? Allah musta'an. May Allah keep us smiling at in this dunya and hereafter. I mean, everybody else, inshallah. So he gave a rooster and he says, I wonder what, a caller of prayer would sacrifice another caller of prayer. Alhamdulillah, they had fun while they were doing righteous deeds. And that's exactly what we're after. So they asked, when is the best time to give sadaqah? You know why I'm saying that? Because this is exactly the same time we're at right now. Everybody's afraid. So he says, the best time to get sadaqah, وَأَنْتَ تَخْشَى الْفَقْرَ وَتَأْمَلِ الْغِنَى. The best time to give sadaqah is when you're afraid of poverty and you're hoping to be rich. He says, this is the best time. And I believe me, everybody, we're in the same boat. Nobody's speaking from a high horse, wallahi. We're in the same boat. But that's, أَنْفِقْ يُنْفِقْ عَلَيْكَ. Spend, Allah will spend upon you. Because we're not more generous than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one is. And that's basically what we're asking our brothers and sisters, inshallah, to give. And be like Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha. You know what, how she used to, maybe you can share, when we mashayikh share the story. You know why? When Aisha radiallahu anha, how did she give the money away? Anybody remember the story, mashayikh? I'm sure you do. I'm not judging you. It's not like I'm testing you.
Did you guys read the hadith?
Yeah, did you? Did you graduate? What school exactly did you study? I'm not taking it off though. I'm just saying that I just wanted to share, Allah. I don't want to hog I just want to make sure that you understand that Aisha radiallahu anha, what she used to do, put perfume in the money before she gives it away. When she was asked why, what did she say? She goes, it goes in the hand of Allah before it goes into the hand of the one that is giving it. Ya salam. هو يأخذ الصدقات هو يربي الصدقات. He is the one that takes the sadaqah. The yurbi, he is the one that actually multiplies it, just like that. The falu, that young, subhanallah, the mayor that comes up. And that's exactly what it is. And she used to give it, she didn't give the money this way. The beauty about Aisha, we learn the etiquettes and manners. Yes? She says, she used to put the perfume in it and leave it. She didn't put it this way. Why? Because if she gave it this way, what happens? The person, exactly Sheikh, the person will have his money, his hand under. She says, no, al-yad al-ulya khayru min sufla. The upper hand is better than the lower hand. The one that gives is better than takes. But understand that we're helping each other. So she used to place it somewhere, so the person who takes it doesn't go this way. The person who takes it this way too. Ya salam. So if you sisters out there want to, inshallah, be with Aisha radiallahu anha, that's what we do. We follow the footsteps of her father. Abu Bakr Siddiq gave all. Umar al-Khattab gave half, like that young man that Allah blessed him. Look at that story. With $2, Allah gave him much more money and a job. So the sadaqah of that benefit is unstoppable. And that's the reason, best thing when you come back, there's nothing better than that. There's benefits in this life, because Prophet took an oath on it. And there's jalb and salb, the rizq is given and not being losing, because Allah will give you something and you could have lost the job, you could have lost the house, you could have lost an eye, lost a child. Allah will protect you. The sadaqah will do that for you. Subhanallah. If I talk about the benefits of sadaqah, it's amazing. So there's like over almost like 20 benefits of the sadaqah if you rank them. But inshallah we're not gonna do that. But I mean I'm hoping they got the gist. And I understand, wallahi, Mashaykh. It's been an honor for this worship of Allah being with you in the company, and I ask Allah to be together like this in the company of Rasulullah ﷺ as he gathers in the dunya. And I ask all the brothers and sisters that are out there to also be with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the highest level of Firdaus al-A'la. And again, lillahi utaqa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expiates the next of people in the whole month of Ramadan, not just the last 10 and the last night, the whole month, every night, alhamdulillah. So may Allah pardon us, may Allah accept our good deeds, may Allah accept our dua, our siyam, our qiyam, our ruku' and sujood, and the sadaqah that we are going to be given, inshallah, for the sake of Allah, before it's too late, and multiply that reward, inshallah. So, in the end, I'm going to ask you to maybe just share with us a little bit of anecdote that you had, that something that changed your life, Sheikh, something that made a huge difference, something that you will never forget. And I hate to put you on the spot, but you know what? Let's just finish with something that is positive, something that, you know what? It's again to change somebody for the right reasons, and I remember quite a few, but maybe we can share.
Man,
No
you know,
pressure.
the first thing that comes to mind is very early on when we were in Medina, we were taught to make sadaqah easy. And that growing up, you always felt like you had to have a job, you had to have money, you had to have savings, and then, okay, now I could give and I could do something and feel useful in that sense. And it was just through life. I always remember this. I remember I was in a drive-through at Tim Hortons, right? So just behind a car, just waiting for my turn to make my order. And when I just ordered a coffee, that was it. And it was time to pay, and the lady said, oh, it's already been taken care of. So I'm like, by who? She said it was the car in front of you. And I have no idea who the person is. And I've never seen them again. They just paid for my coffee and they just drove away. And I said, my goodness, I don't even know who they are, where they came from, but they just did something. And they just did it for whatever reason, right? But the point is that I learned from that moment that sadaqah can be very simple and easy, just like the Prophet says, right? Ittaqun nar walau bishiqqi tamra, right? That you protect yourself from the fire even if you give a half a date in sadaqah. And what's like the value of a half a date? So this person paid for my coffee, $1 something, but I remember that moment, perhaps maybe for the rest of my life. And I may see that person and meet them on the Day of Judgment, who knows? So that was a life-changing moment for me. Just I learned how easy I could make a difference in somebody's life, but just the whole process of giving, I didn't have to have a lot of money, or I didn't have to have any money at all. But at the end of the day, just any act of kindness that makes somebody's life a little bit easier, that was life-changing for me.
That's beautiful, Sheikh. Thank you for sharing that with us. If I can ask Sheikh Daood, maybe you can share something that actually means something a lot to you.
How do you beat that? Cup of coffee, subhanAllah. I think, yeah, loaded question, like Sheikh Musleh said. There's so many examples I think that we can give. One that's more recent, I would say, I I was live streaming, with this whole COVID-19 thing, and we just moved homes as well. During the pandemic, we had to move homes. And so we downsized, because if you try and find the same home, it just costs more. So we downsized, and I'm like frustrated with, I got to squeeze to move through, and you're tall, you want space. I like space. And my wife's like, just be happy, alhamdulillah, we have what we have. And then while I'm live streaming, I'm talking about the life of the Prophet ﷺ and how he would wake up at night to pray tahajjud. And subhanAllah, Aisha radiallahu anha would be sleeping, and he would move her legs and then go make his sajda, and then she would, put her legs back. And I'm live streaming from my bedroom, and I look at my bed, and I'm like, my bed is the size of the house of the Prophet ﷺ. And I was just like, I was teaching, and it hit me so hard. I'm like, I can't finish. I'm looking at my bed thinking his home was that size, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and here we are complaining about what we have, like 2 floors, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Alhamdulillah, we have what we have. And it just makes you think, like, the things that we have of this dunya will outlive us. The things that we have, like when we buy something, we're like, oh, it's a phone. It's probably going to last like a year or 2 before we buy another one, but that phone might outlive me, right? I die and that phone is still in my pocket while I'm dead. And I was thinking, subhanAllah, all the wealth that we have, and the Prophet ﷺ had far greater amounts of wealth than we could ever imagine, right? He was like the leader of the ummah, and he kept receiving and giving, and he kept like just what he needed for himself. And so that example for me was like, just give, just keep giving. Go to your closet, take half the clothing, give it. Go to your, I love shoes. I got my shoes, give the shoes, right? Watches, give the watches. I actually gifted that night a watch to one of the students online. He was, he asked a question. And when I opened up the Q&A session, he goes, everyone's asking Islamic questions. He's like, Sheikh, everyone's asking questions all the time. I just want to ask how you're doing. And I was like, oh my God, a human being cares about you, And I said, you know what? Because of that, I'm giving you this watch. It's yours. And I literally walked to his home. I asked his parents for his address, and I walked to his home and gave it to him because he did a sadaqah for me. He asked me how I'm doing. And to me, that was priceless. You'd give up everything of this dunya for it.
Sheikh, how are you doing? I'm good. Just I don't wear watches here. I'm just kidding. I'm just saying. Well, thank you, man. I know. Okay. No rings now. Thank you. As if I done it. Remember, wallahi, Sheikh. I know. I don't wear it. Sheikh. I don't wear watches. I don't wear rings. My wife was telling me, how many rings have you lost? Everybody knows I'm married now. Khalas, wallahi. May Allah bless you family. Barakallahu feeka, ahlika malik. So maybe Sheikhna, take us home with a story or something that happened to you personally in your life that made a difference.
I just, something somewhat recently that happened that maybe a couple of years ago. I was driving actually to perform a nikah for someone, and I hit a flat tire on the highway, and they pulled over on the 401, and I'm standing there, I'm just exactly like this. So I'm expecting, maximum somebody will slow down and yell something bad at me and continue driving. And I'm trying to call my wife, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and the people in the hall are calling me, and they said we need to get married and everybody's here, and subhanAllah, I just felt so much stress. And some guy just pulled over, and he said, what's wrong? And I showed him like my tire's not working, and also like my spare is flat. So I had 2 problems. He took out his own spare tire, and subhanAllah it fit, and he put it on for me, and he said, go get those people married. And he didn't want anything in return. I said, I'll compensate you, and he said no, and he just let me go, subhanAllah, and I was able to go and do that nikah. And I actually got his phone number so that I can give him back the tire, and I gave him some materials about Islam, and I tried to compensate him, and he refused to take anything. And subhanAllah, just like that act of kindness. And I was telling him, like, I was expecting that people seeing me dressed as a Muslim would not be very welcoming, and I was like so surprised to see somebody to show that type of charity really in a time that it was very difficult. And I think that just goes to the whole idea that sadaqah, sometimes charity, the most powerful thing that you can do is when it's difficult for you and when it's difficult for the person receiving it. The person receiving it is in a moment of difficulty, And it might be a little bit difficult for you to give it, but that's when you get the most reward.
Allahu Akbar. Beautiful stories. So, you know, in the end, really, I have nothing more than to say thank you, Sheikh Musleh Khan, for being here. May Allah bless you in your time and your effort. And thank you, Sheikh.
Sheikh, we want your story.
I will. It's so close. So close. I thought I could get away with it.
We want yours.
I gotta go.
Your wife isn't calling you, so you're doing good so far. Just no more.
Speaking of my wife, it's actually the story about my wife, Sheikh. Subhanallah, I don't know what to say. She's been through thick and thin with this poor slave of Allah. We moved 20 times. I've been married for 25 years now, and you know, there was a time that I had very tough times. There was a tough time that I had to go through, and especially, you know, when she knew it, she sold her gold. And Wallahi, Sheikh, and said, "Here you go, do what you have to do." And I'll never forget that. And that's what the hadith says. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and, you know, said even his wife wanted to help him. He said, "I will not take it, except you get the permission from the Prophet." He says, "You get double the reward of sadaqah and sila." So I'll never forget that, especially when she took in my mother and looked after her. Her stock went through the roof, so I will never forget that. That really hit me hard. It really hit me hard, Sheikh. Yeah. Speaking of the mother, you remember, Sheikh, that we said, "Taqun nar bi shiqqi tamra." Aisha radiallahu anha saw that she had 3 dates. A woman comes in with 2 daughters, and they were hungry. She gave them the 3 dates, and the mother gave each one a date, and the daughters were so hungry, they ate it so quick, and before the mother eats her own date, she splits the date and gives each of the daughter half of a date. And Aisha was so impressed, she told the story of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that the one mother did. Says, that's where it comes from, Sheikh. Says, Allah forgave her sins, so protect her from the hellfires. فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ وَبِشِقِّ تَمْرَةٍ. So ask Allah to protect you from the hellfire even with half a date. Ya salam. So in the end, brothers and sisters, I'm going to talk to you directly, inshallah. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You will not reach this high level of benevolence till you give from what you love. And what do you love? Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also answer the questions. تُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. We love wealth too much. But we love Allah more than that. And that's basically what I'm going to leave you, inshallah. Understanding that Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, what he did, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and the best, even the Ashr al-Bashara, they gave their garden 600 palm trees for one, just for an orphan to be able to have. And he will have the same of it, but the trunk of it will be made of gold. The rivers that they have, and they gave the birha, everything that they had for the sake of Allah. They didn't hold back anything. They were not afraid. They had yaqeen, they had certainty what happened. And that's the strength that we are going to do. It's a struggle between us. Whether we give or not give, it's a decision you have to make. And in the end, it's going to boil down to a decision you have to make. Do you love your wealth more, or do you love Allah more? Do you love this dunya more, or do you love the hereafter more? Do you want to keep the money here, or you want to transfer the money here in the hereafter, where you're going to need it most? Now, I'll leave you with one thought. If the Queen of England comes right now, says, "Can somebody lend me some money?" Will you give her money? Most of us will. What about the King of Kings? How about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you again, "Man dhal ladhi yuqridu Allah qardan hasana?" Who is going to give a goodly loan to Allah? Are we going to hold back? As just a slight warning. We'll finish with the positive, inshallah. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ha antum ha'ula tud'awna litunfiqu fi sabilillah. فَمِنْكُمْ مَا يَبْخَلْ وَمَا يَبْخَلْ فَإِنَّمَا يَبْخَلُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ وَاللَّهُ الْغَنِيُّ وَأَنْتُمُ الْفُقَرَاءُ." Here you are being asked to spend for the sake of Allah. Amongst you, those who have it and they're hoarding back. They're being stingy, they're being miser. And if you do so, you're harming yourself. Allah is self-sufficient, doesn't need us. We need Him. So it's a choice again you have to make. But how could a choice be slipping through your fingers? Where Prophet Muhammad says, here you are. Jannah is like exactly what the reward is going to be. Who refuses to go to Jannah with the shade of the sadaqah? Who refuses to actually go to the Jannah because of the deed with sadaqah? Who says no to a castle made of brick of silver, brick of gold? Live happily ever after. Never be hungry again, never be thirsty again, never die again, never be ill again, never pay taxes or a job or homework or anything else again. Eternal pleasure. You live 33 years old all the time, looking like Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam all the time. You will never have to worry about that. Aging lines, gravity, or anything else accordingly. Eternal bliss. Anything you wish for, you will get, and more. To be able to see the magnificent face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's where I'm going to leave you. That's where we have to say with you. I hope, inshallah, that you are going to have the ability to be able to beat shaitan and give to Ar-Rahman, with asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from all of you, protect you, your family, health and wealth. And I ask again in the end, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers you in the dunya, to gather us with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the highest level of paradise with no accountability. Ameen. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'in. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu anna khayra. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله